What up, gamers? Welcome to the first ever OSRS update on this channel, today's being Project Rebalance. In this update, there will be a lot of changes today, including NPC defense changes, item rebalances, and a bunch of other changes as well. Starting off with combat, they have buffed elemental weaknesses for monsters, as well as split some of the ranged defense types you can expect to deal against different NPCs. For example, if you were to cast Fire Surge on an NPC who has 50% fire weakness, you'll gain around 50% bonus accuracy and damage against them. This will be great for a number of mobs that I'll be showing here, as you'll be able to actually do damage to them at an earlier stage on your account than if you needed to wait for, say, a powered staff like a Trident of the Seas, a Sanguinesi staff, or even the Warp Scepter that you can get at early level Slayer. Additionally, there will be elemental spell scaling, meaning that if you unlock the last spell in that tier of spells, you will effectively be able to do the max amount of damage with any of the 4 elemental spells. This means that you'd be able to actually hit a max hit of 8 with a Wind Strike instead of 4 as it previously was, because now you'll be hitting the max amount of damage like you would with a Fire Strike. Okay, moving on, we're going to be talking about the ranged defense types and how the weapons that you actually use will affect the monsters that you're hitting. So we're going to break this down into 3 tiers. We have heavy, which is bolts and javelins, standard, which is arrows, which includes bow and arrow, the Bow of Fahrenheiten, as well as the Crystal Bow, and there will be a light tier, which is darts and knives and other thrown weaponry like thrown axes. Many of the NPCs that we defeat on a daily basis while we play RuneScape will be affected by these ranged defense type updates. Basically, I wanted to create a graphic so you'll be able to understand what actually will be affected. Most of the weapons that we use in these categorizations will be still used against these bosses, but the heavy, the standard, and the light for all of the bosses included. Okay, let's break away from the combat changes and the NPC updates, and let's move right into the item rebalances, the juicy part of this update. The main thing to take away from this update is how mage gear has effectively been changed. Occult Necklace's magic damage has been reduced from 10 to 5%, Ancestral Robe pieces have been increased from 2 to 3%, Virtus Robe set pieces have been increased from 1 to 2%, and the following items have had their magic damage per piece increased from 0 to 1%. This being Infinity Robes, Dagon High Robes, Third Age Mage Armor, Aram's Robes, Blue Moon Armor, Elder Chaos Druid pieces, and Bloodbark Armor. Now let's get to the prayer rebalance. Augury has been increased from 0 to 4%, Mystic Might has had its damage increase from 0 to 2%, Mystic Lore has had its increase from 0 to 1%, Eternal Boots now have a magic damage of 1%, Mage's Book now has a damage of 2%, Ancient Wyver's Shield now has a damage of 2%, Malediction Ward has a damage of 2%, Arcane Spirit Shield now has a damage of 3%, Seer's Ring and Seer's Ring Imbued now have a magic damage increase from 0 to 0.5%, and the Elite Void Mage set bonus has been increased from 2.5 to 5% magic bonus. Because of this item rebalance, now any stage of the account you're pretty much at, where the gear you have will be effective for the mage that you are outputting. Now, this will scale effectively with how the Occult Necklace used to work, but it will have a bigger effect on the items you're using and the status you are at your account. Other than the mage rebalance, there's been a huge update to weapons like the Soul Reaper Axe, the Elder Maul, Inquisitor Armor, Ancient Godsword Special Attack, and Tome of Fire and Water. The Soul Reaper Axe will no longer have stacks be lost once you switch weapons. Stacks will start being lost after 12 seconds instead of 6 seconds. And while the stacks naturally degrade, they'll heal you for the amount of damage you took while building up as long as you have the axe in your inventory. The Elder Maul got an insane update today with an increased accuracy of 25% as well as a 50% special attack that allows you to reduce your target's defense by 35%. This effectively means that it's the new, better, two-handed Dragon Warhammer. The Elder Maul will be a great weapon for anybody who wants to bring a two-handed weapon into the raid so they won't have to have a defender on, making it easier switches for items like a Twisted Bow or a Tumican Shadow in a 7-way or 8-way setup. Inquisitor Armor today is now getting a 2.5% buff in accuracy and damage when worn alongside with the Inquisitor Mace to each set piece. The Ancient Godsword Special Attack will now effectively be giving you a blood sacrifice for about 15% of the target's max HP up to a cap of 25. And lastly, the Tomes of Fire and Water will now boost the respective elements by 10% against NPCs down from 50 due to the elemental update that we've had today. Alright, let's get into the last section, which is the miscellaneous combat adjacent changes. The Dragon Warhammer now drops at a rate of 1 in 3,000 versus that before of a 1 in 5,000. The minimum hit of the game has now been adjusted as well, so if you pass an accuracy check and you hit, that means you will no longer be hitting a 0 instead of a 1 once you accurately hit. They've supposedly added a Cursed Amulet of Magic, which is a drop rate of 1 in 5 from the Necromancer south of Shazian. It gives you a negative 80% magic damage bonus, which I guess is for some niche use case. I don't know specifically, but maybe some combat nerd might figure that out.
You look a bit cute. Come here.
The Prayer Drain for Thick Skin, Bursts of Strength, Clarity of Thoughts, Sharp Eye, and Mystic Will will be decreased from 5 to 1.67 points per minute. This means that you will effectively be able to use lower level prayer at a less prayer cost. Sharp Eye and Burst of Strength now boost your range and strength by 1 level as long as they are under 20. Attacking an NPC with autocast enabled no longer has a delay. In TOA, the Path of Amkin, also known as the Monkey Room, has been updated, so you'll always be able to hit a max hit with the damage type of the opposite that you are hitting. This means if you are attacking a meleeer and you use Mage, you'll effectively be using the max hit of your weapon. Nightmare and Phosani have respectively had both of their changes increased, so you'll be able to see the differences of the Nightmare Staff, the Inquisitor Mace, the Orb, and the Inquisitor Armor from an increase from what they used to be previously. Lastly, now we'll be able to effectively store javelins with the Ava's devices, so we will no longer lose javelins on hit. If you guys decided to make it all the way through, thanks for checking out my video on Project Rebalance. It was fun to just kind of go through the wiki and see what did and did not come out through the update. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe. I'll probably make more of these as more OSRS updates come out that are a little bit harder to digest. That way you'll be able to understand. But anyways, thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. See you guys in the next video.